went up to us one at a time, punching us, saying it's going to be called Help. And we said, yeah, that's a great idea, Dick, sir. We'll call it that, and that's how it all came about.
Made for United Artists with the help of Dick Lester, Walter Shenson, one or two people we also plug.
Yeah, it's called Help, you know. Out of Dick Lester's mouth it came. Our director friends.
We didn't want the Beatles to just make a colour version of Hard Day's Night. In other words, no more another fictionized documentary. We couldn't show them in their private life, which would be the next logical extension to it, because that was by then certainly X-rated, or at least what X-ratings were in those days. And so if we can't show them in their working life, and we can't show them in their private life, they have to become, if you like, passive recipients of an outside plot or an outside threat, brought on by a weakness within themselves. And that led to the idea for Help.
It's basically a chase film, because I keep getting chased by all these lunatics, and my three pals save me.
They seem to be chasing Ringo, and there's two leading scientists who hope to rule the world. And an Eastern beauty saves our lives from time to time, it says here.
I am not what I seem.
It was a complete departure from what they'd done before, and I think that was because they wanted to act. They wanted to learn something else, and that's one of the things that I admired about them.
And it's just nice to be sort of doing something like a film, which is a completely new thing for us, really. You know, we've only ever done one before this one. It's just good seeing Russians and seeing a film get together and seeing it sort of make itself, you know.
Well, there's a lot more happening in this. There's a story, you see. In the last one, it was just sort of documentary, but this is a real film almost.
The dialogue was much more complex because we were working with almost a surreal writer in Charles Wood, who was a word play specialist, and so there were lots of plays on words that were going on, which they could all manage. I mean, John was writing books within this style, but it meant that there needed a little bit more concentration, and in those days, by concentration I meant please don't lose your script in the first week. You know, try to keep it in the car for as long as you can.
Doesn't the blood rush to your head, sir? Doesn't the Eastern flavour come rather expensive? Doesn't the blood rush to your stomach?
Is it nasty, this ring, sir? Ah! Kylie! Oh dear, I must lie down. Oh.
Your friend is in mortal danger. I can see.
I had an interview. I think at the end of the interview they said they'd like me to do it. So I was amazed, and I didn't really have a clue what it meant, actually, because we'd been away in America. We didn't know what had been happening in England, so we returned from New York to find photographs of these lads with soup dish haircuts leaping down the King's Road. I was very shy and only got to know the ripening significance as that time went on. It was as if you touched gold. It was like you'd been in the presence of Midas, and somehow you were glorified, but also become a bit infectious in some strange way. It was very much reflected light, I must say. So people thought it was astounding, and it was astounding actually, but it's been a feature of my life that I've never known until a long time later just how astounding things were. And I hear them say, hey, you've got to hide your love away.
For the first assistant director, a man called Clive Reed, very, very good. Enough for the first assistant. Because he's responsible for getting the actors on the set in time and all the rest of it, and where are they? And Clive said, I can tell by the noise, because they couldn't get anywhere in those days without screaming crowds. And Clive would know by the number of decibels exactly where they were. And so they just remember, or they just come over the bridge and they'll be in. Always.
It was the most terrible kind of high-pitched screaming, and I couldn't believe I didn't know what it was, and I looked and there were these row upon row on all the tops of the buildings and anywhere that there was any purchase to be had for these girls screaming. And it was extraordinary.
I used to get lots of letters from girls all over the world, really, asking for pieces of hair. And because I used to cut it I used to save the pieces, and I used to sort of put them in an envelope and then give it to the production. They used to send it off for me. I've got a piece of John Lennon's hair still. Didn't realise I'd kept it. I got a book with Spanner in the Works with a piece of his hair, and he said, "To Betty with hair."
It's unheard of interrupting a session of filming without good reason. The excuse here was that Radio Caroline was presenting its first birthday award, and it went to the Beatles. The records of the famous four have been in more demand on Radio Caroline than any others. Caroline's top disc jockey Simon D made the presentation and told the group all about the thousands of requests for their records that he receives. All this popularity doesn't go to their heads. They have enough hair to keep it out. On the air, stage, films, and now at sea, the Beatles ring the bell every time.
5, they'd like to. Now I'm Wayne. You know, they expect it, don't they? Love